Yesterday on the program, we were at DEFCON 3. Now, DEFCON 1 is imminent nuclear meltdown. DEFCON 5 is everybody calm down, all right? Just bring it down. It's no big deal, right? The reason I had brought it up from DEFCON 5, where I was throughout this entire process, because I was saying, look, the Republicans, they're not going to mess with the bankers. The bankers don't want to mess with the debt ceiling. That's the most important thing, because if we default on the debt, that could be calamitous for the world, financial markets, and then eventually all the markets, right? The government shutdown is cutesy games. If they did a real government shutdown, then everybody would be in a panic. If you didn't get your Social Security check, we couldn't pay the military, etc., then there'd be riots in the streets. But we never do real government shutdowns. We just do like cutesy, oh, we closed a couple of parks. Whoop-de-doo, right? It's DEFCON 5. Now, yesterday I moved it up to DEFCON 3 because it appeared that the Republicans had literally lost their minds, that they weren't even listening to the bankers anymore because the bankers had called them. Wall Street called them, big corporations called them and said, what are you doing? You could have your fun with shutting down the government, sequesters, whatever else you're doing for your, and we want you to destroy Obamacare, except for the insurance companies that actually secretly love it. And some of the drug companies that also agree to it. But a lot of the corporations say, okay, yes, I don't like Obamacare, go after that. I don't like the government regulating me. Shut down the EPA, great, definitely do that. But don't you dare mess with the debt ceiling, because we have to pay those debts. That affects the banks and all the corporations all across the world. Now, it appeared the Republicans were not listening. Well, today, I'm bringing it back to DEFCON 4. We're not at 5 yet, but it turns out there are a couple of enormous indicators saying that finally the Republicans are like that clown at the Apollo that's about to get the hook, right? Or when the clown comes out with the hook to pull you, right? Boehner's like, hey guys, how's the debt ceiling negotiations going? And Heritage Foundation's coming out with, I don't think so, big guy. So let me explain. Look, the Republicans in Congress are not the actual power brokers. They're sad little bitches. They take their marching orders from the people who donate to them, and then they do their bidding. You think John Boehner makes a decision? John Boehner. Who the hell is John Boehner? He's a petty, silly little politician, right? The guys who make the decisions are the so-called think tanks because they're the ones who get the giant amount of money that is to be funneled to those politicians, depending on whether they got the right scorecard or not. That's why the think tanks keep scorecards. The NRA does the same thing. So one of those so-called think tanks is the Heritage Foundation. It's the largest one on the right-wing side. Now they have an even more active part of it, more conservative, more right-wing part of it called Heritage Action. Well, the CEO of Heritage Action spoke to the Christian Science Monitor this morning, and he did a lot of huffing and puffing about, oh, we're not going to negotiate on anything, and goddamn Obamacare, and it's terrible, etc. But when push came to shove, he said, quote, I'm sure the markets will react negatively if we talk about the debt ceiling. And then he went on to say, the debt ceiling is not negotiable, thereby basically agreeing with President Obama. In other words, do not do that. Republicans, you misunderstood us. Backpedal, backpedal. That thing is real, okay? And you know who gives that Heritage Action Fund? Well, yes, the Koch brothers. And yes, by the way, the Koch brothers, to answer a tweet I got yesterday about the live show, yeah, they would be hurt by this too. It's their greed run amok. They've got a lot of financial interest. They've got a lot of energy interest. It would hurt all those things if we actually defaulted on the Treasury bonds, right? So here's and Heritage Action also supported by a lot of the corporations. So here comes the hook. They're like, no, we didn't mean debt ceiling. We meant all the other cute stuff, not the debt ceiling, right? They're not alone. Now here's when you know that all sides have agreed that it shouldn't be the debt ceiling. Matt Kibbe, from CEO of FreedomWorks, totally Koch brothers funded organization. So it's not just the corporate side, it's also the Koch brothers. Quote, this is an emerging set of opinions that looks to be where everybody's gravitating to, in reference to not messing with the debt ceiling. And now, if that's not enough, one of the top neoconservatives in the country, in the New York Post, that's a Murdoch-owned paper, so here comes Murdoch. John Podorz is his name, doing this editorial sanctioned by the New York Post. He says, look, the Republicans might be, as he titled his post, committing, quote, suicide of the right. Wow, right? Here's what Podorz says. Look, I dislike what they dislike, referring to the Tea Party Republicans that are doing this. I want what they want, but I fear they are very, very wrong about the existence of the silent majority, and that their misperception is leading them to do significant damage to the already damaged Republican brand. Now, the reason that's really interesting is because he's saying, look, you seem to think that the country is totally on our side. And I know there's two reasons why you think that. He explains in his article. One is you keep saying, well, you know, if you ask people if they're conservative or they're liberal, conservative wins by 2-1. But this is Podortz basically saying, hey, guys, that was a trick we did. We play some word games there. The American people don't actually believe that. You think you've got this silent majority on your side? No, you don't. Every day there's a new poll out saying how much they hate you and that they hate you significantly more than they hate the Democrats or President Obama. Remember, that was what we were doing to trick other people, not ourselves. And then you say, oh, Obamacare is unpopular, but you're mistaken on that too, at least the severity with which you think it's unpopular. So he explains here. He says, it has been true for more than 20 years that Americans are twice as likely to call themselves conservative. And in that time, Republicans have lost the popular vote in 5 out of 6 national elections. You understand what he's saying there? He's saying, look, yeah. Oh, Americans are more conservative. Bullshit. We lost the popular vote in the last 5 out of 6 national presidential elections. It's just a mirage. You weren't supposed to believe that trick. That was for the suckers. No, when a push comes to shove, we lose. We don't have the silent majority. We have the silent, or the very, very vocal, actually, minority. So don't do this. You're only going to make it worse. Now, on Obamacare, it says, if Obamacare had been as unpopular as conservatives believed, their plan for the shutdown, that there would be public uprising to force Democratic senators in close races in 2014 to defund it, would have worked. It didn't. Not a single senator budged. He's right about that. All those wishy-washy Democratic senators who are ready to jump shit, another fun Freudian slip, jump ship the minute that they sense that they're going to lose, if they don't have the overwhelming majority on their side, they're like, okay, we'll do whatever the Republicans want. None of them have budged because Obamacare is not that unpopular. It's certainly not as unpopular as shutting the government down and messing with the debt ceiling. This is Podortz saying, reel it back in. You're wrong. We were trying to trick people. You tricked yourself. Finally, to give you a sense of how much he's saying to Boehner, hey, know your role. Quote, one thing we know for sure is that it's not an equal fight. This fight between a man who received 65 million votes nationwide, obviously referring to President Obama, and a man who received 246,000 votes in one congressional district in Ohio, referring to John Boehner. In other words, shut up and get back in line. You're in over your head here. You misunderstood what we were saying. Okay, now Wall Street is speaking with a loud and clear voice, and the rich have joined them like the Koch brothers, saying, not the debt ceiling, you schmucks.